Today on Outdoor Oklahoma, we celebrate the incredible and diverse sport fishing opportunities in our great state. We'll get tips from pros and biologists on how to catch the big ones and take a candid look at two of our newest state record holders. Set your DVRs, because this show's a keeper. From the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, Outdoor Oklahoma. Most anglers have at one time or another dreamed of hooking onto a huge trophy largemouth bass. In Oklahoma, every cast has the potential for a hard-hitting, tail-walking adrenaline rush that has you scrambling for a net and a camera. And for many, it's what draws us back to the water time after time. But only a handful of guys have ever been able to say they've actually caught a state record largemouth bass. Well, that was all the previous state record largemouth bass dating back to 1966, and the last one of which had stood ever since a 14-pound, 11.52 largemouth bass was taken out of Broken Bow Lake. Well, as they say, records were meant to be broken. And such was the case on March 23, 2012, when Benny Williams Jr. of Podo, Oklahoma, caught a 14-pound, 12.3 largemouth bass out of Cedar Lake in southeast Oklahoma.
I'm Benny Williams Jr. I'm the new state record holder for the largemouth bass. Had a good idea where to fish. The water temperature was close to 60. And it was pre-spawn, and the water was stained, though I didn't think I'd do very good from all the rains, all the runoff. Well, I was casting a jig up on the bank. I caught a few fish, and I mean, they hit hard. But when she hit, it was just kind of like a little mouth. That wasn't a good hard pop. I didn't see my line move. I just felt it. And when I set the hook, it was a solid, steady pull. She went out and just come up straight up. You know, just right off the bat, and threw her head around out of the water 4 or 5 times, and went down and made a couple of runs, and pull and drag, and I was afraid she was going to get around my anchor rope. And, I kind of horsed her to the side, away from my trolling motor and away from the rope, and got her up, and she come up some more, and finally I got her up inside the boat, and I was able to grab my line, and I pulled her up and just grabbed her, and once I got her in the boat, that's the best feeling. I looked at her and I couldn't believe it. I never even seen a bass that big. Hardly even seen a fish that big.
All right, here's Williams, second, holding the state record.
The game warden came, and I met him and shook his hand and everything. But anyway, he set his scale, zeroed it out. I put my fish in it, and he said, he kind of started chuckling, and he said, 14.8 something, like 14.85. He said you're about 2 or 3 ounces shy of the state record. And I said, well, can you do it again? And we did it again, and it showed up just actually a little bit less from lack of water. But anyway, I was disappointed, but I had a good fish. So anyway, we left, and I left before he did. I went to Hodgins to get some gas, and he pulled in behind me, and And he got the scale out again. I said, what's going on, sir? And he said, well, I think I had the scale set wrong. He said, I talked to the biologist and he was telling me how to reset it. So I reset it, and well, he put it on back of my boat and reset it. And I got my fish back out of the live well and put it in the box, and he started laughing again. He looked up at me. He said, "You got it." Kind of just mouthed it. I couldn't really hear him. He just kind of said, "You got it." And I was looking down at him. I was up in my boat, and I said, "Now don't lie to me." And he said, "No, you got it." And I'll never forget that day. The greatest moment.
I'm not putting him up on any kind of pedestal because he is my father, but there are few men that I know that are as good of a person as he is. Anybody that spends any time with him knows that he's honest. He's just good to be around. I mean, honestly, I get a little emotional about it because he does work hard, and I feel like he deserves some payoff. And if there's anything that he loves, it's fishing. And there's no bigger gift to him than to have his name in the books for however many years to come.
The whole thing's been good. The record may be broke tomorrow, but I've had a good time with it.
While our crews were visiting with Benny Williams Jr. at Cedar Lake, we took the time to do a little fishing with Benny and his son, Benny Williams III, and check out some of that great fishing action.
The potential here is awesome. I mean, it's a great fishery, plenty of bait fish, plenty of forage. Florida strain bass, they get bigger quicker.
It's a good one. Okay, hang on to him. Hang on to him, don't rush.
Get the net. Get the net.
I got it.
Get the net.
I got it, buddy. Just keep it tight. You got your drag set? Good job, buddy. Oh, great.
That's my big fish now. He's close, isn't he?
Yeah, good fish. This way.
No, he's about 5.5. Just pulling it through, there's a little line of stumps out there. Hit some of that wood in there, kind of popped it over the top, and just let it sit there. And I looked over at Dad and then felt just a little thump on it and set the hook. And there she was, right in the top of the mouth. There are double-digit bass pulled out of here all the time, and every cast you make, you think, well, this could be the cast where I get my fish of a lifetime.
Well, wouldn't you know it, just as our Outdoor Oklahoma crew was packing up for the day, Benny gave us one last look at one of those monster Cedar Lake largemouth bass.
Oh, man. There you go.
Good fish.
It's a monster.
And it's bouncing around, but it's like 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in there. Just a good fish. Another Cedar Lake bass.
Again, congratulations to Benny Williams Jr. on his record-breaking largemouth bass. So, is this a record that will stand for a long time? And have we possibly reached our potential for our state record largemouth bass? We want to hear from you, so join us on the discussion at Facebook and Twitter. Well, the record largemouth bass wasn't the only news that year. 8 days later, another popular species, the smallmouth bass state record, was broken at Lake Lawtonka.
Hi, I'm Ryan Wasser, new state record smallmouth bass holder, Lake Lawtonka in 2012, March 31st, 8 pounds, 7 ounces. I had my mom and my son, and we went to a place where I knew that could hold a good fish. Actually, it was pre-fishing for a tournament for the following day, and just made the right cast at the right perfect time. hit the fish right on the nose. Didn't really have any time to set the hook. Fish basically hooked itself. I started hollering at my mom to grab the net. She didn't realize where the net was, didn't know what compartment it was in. Actually, the fish kind of did a dolphin dive. Didn't tail wag or anything like that. Drag was just stripping off the pole. I told her that I had a potential record fish on and that she had to get the net. We got to get this thing in the net.
Fish.
I had the fish ready to be netted about 4 or 5 times, and then it just kept running underneath the boat, and I could tell it was a smallmouth. And at the time I was just thinking state record because it looked just ridiculously big. You know whenever you see one come out of the water like that it's close, if not. But I wasn't sure what the actual record was at the time. I wasn't sure, so I called my dad and I had him look it up on the computer, and he said, I'm finding that it's 8 pounds 3 ounces. And I was like, well, I think we got it if that's the case. It's nice to have a state record card to pull when you're talking about competitive fishing with your buddies. It's kind of funny. And they're made to be broken. Even if it gets broken this coming up year, it's pretty cool to have had done it one time at least.
If you live in the state of Oklahoma and you're after a big fish, a smallmouth bass or a largemouth bass, one of the best things I can tell you is you want to be fishing in the springtime. February to April is when 99% of the big fish are caught, and you want to be towards the shallow end of the lake. That's when the fish are coming up to spawn, and you want to fish on the low pressure days, the days when you got storms and stuff come in, not lightning, but low pressure clouds. You want to be on the lower end of the lakes. You want to be fishing in springtime, and you want to be fishing on lakes that have big fish. I live on Lake Tenkiller, has some of the biggest smallmouth in the state. Grand Lake has there's lakes all in Oklahoma that have big fish. You got to be on a lake that has big fish, and you got to be out there in the spring.
2 long-standing records in Oklahoma being broken within 8 days of each other. Wow! And not only are state records being broken, but lake records are being broken all the time. Visit wildlifedepartment.com for a list of all current state and lake records. Now, coming up, we'll get some information and good tips on how to catch largemouth bass and have a successful day on the water right after this week's Outdoor News Report. Catching a record largemouth bass is a dream for many anglers, but our surveys actually show that most Oklahoma anglers would rather have a chance to catch more fish than, well, the big one. So what's the Wildlife Department doing to improve your chances of success? And what do you need to know to have a fun day out on the water?
The popularity of largemouth is primarily due to the aggression of the fish. They're easy to catch. They're pretty aggressive. They'll bite artificial as well as live bait. And so they're easy to catch, and a lot of people enjoy it for that fact. Well, one of the things that we do as an agency for management of our largemouth bass populations is directed primarily at our reservoirs, but it's through varying length limits and regulations that we have on our black bass. We do have a number of lakes in the state that have trophy management regulations, which allow us to provide a more quality experience, trophy fish for our anglers. And it's a 2-part process. It's not only regulations to protect the fish, but we also stock a Florida strain largemouth bass, which are genetically superior and tend to grow larger and grow to that trophy status. And so there's 2 ways there that we're trying to produce trophy fish in a number of our reservoirs throughout the state. Every spring we publish our Angler's Guide, which has information about our electrofishing surveys that we do around the state, which is our primary way of monitoring our bass populations. But we also report annually a tournament report, which is a voluntary program that we have for tournament anglers to report the results from the tournaments that they host. We analyze those statistics, we summarize that information, and we provide it to the angling public. There's a few tried and true baits, basic baits that you would use for bass fishing that have always caught fish over time. Just go over a few of those. One example is a spinner bait. This is a lure that has spinning Blades replicates an injured bait fish. They come in a number of different colors. You can get anything from a white, which may replicate more of a bait fish, to something like this, replicating either a crawdad or a sunfish, perch, that type of thing. Other baits that you might use, crankbaits, a hard bait that dives down, also looks like a shad, but they also make these crankbaits that replicate like a crawdad or something like that. So a number of baits in that family as well. Some of the tried and true lures for bass over time, just simple jigs. This is a bait that replicates a crawdad on the bottom, moving really slowly. And they come in different colors, different shapes and sizes as well, but some of the basic colors here that replicate crawdads. And then of course soft plastics. Probably one of the most successful baits over time has been the soft plastics. Things like this that replicate a worm, or they make these types of baits that look like crawfish that have pinchers, and they could be very basic. Simple, lures like this, 4-inch twirl-tail grub. Just put a jig head on that, and you've got an effective bass lure in most any pond or even reservoir in the state of Oklahoma. And soft plastics have evolved and become very sophisticated as well. You've got baits like this that are shaped to mimic a shad. And so there's a number of different things out there. There's a whole host of different types of baits and all of these baits that I've just described. But the point is, it doesn't take every lure. You don't have to have everything. You don't have to have a lot of the gimmick lures that are meant to catch anglers and not catch fish. A few basic lures in your tackle box that you have confidence in are going to be the best thing for helping you catch a few bass.
Well, that's some great information. Thanks, Cliff. For a long time, the largemouth bass has been the #1 sport fish in Oklahoma. But we can't forget crappie and the growing popularity that it has as well. So with that said, here's some great information on how to fill your stringer with a mess full of crappie.
Crappie are real prolific spawners, so we don't do much management as far as population management, but we do a lot of activity as far as trying to construct places where it'll draw the crappie in, where they'll stop and hang around a while. Fish attractors, we call them. And we use different things. We use cedar trees. They're probably one of the best. In addition to the brush piles that we put out, we've gone in the last few years to something we call spider blocks. A lot of times we'll put 4 or 5 in a spot, and we found that a lot of times if we can enhance something that's already there, like a stump or a rock or some kind of structure that's already there, and add spider blocks to it, it makes the whole thing a lot better, holds fish better.
It's really, really simple. You don't have to have a $50,000 bass boat and tons of really expensive rods. You can go and buy just a simple rod and reel, grab a couple of jigs, and you can go out and catch dinner that night. You can go to local ponds or your local lake. The Oklahoma Department of Wildlife has got tons of different attractors out on almost all lakes, and you can just go to one of those, find the right depth, and catch fish. When it comes to jig sizes, colors, all of that, keep it pretty simple. It doesn't make as big of a difference as what a lot of people think. If crappie's not going to swim up to a white and chartreuse and not eat it because it's black and pink, that's not going to happen. So just keep it simple. Live bait's also another great way to catch them. If you're at a dock like this and there's not a lot of people around, set out some minnow poles and then grab your jig pole, and you're going to catch more fish that way. When it comes to jig selection, like I always say, keep it simple, but truly I believe that the heavier jig really will let you feel more bites, okay? When a fish bites, that bite that you feel is actually just that fish taking the slack out of the line. So if you'll go to a heavier jig, like let's say that you're used to using a 1/16, go to an 1/8. If you're used to using an 1/8, go to a 1/4. It's going to keep your line tighter. You're going to feel that bite a lot better. As far as styles go, of course, the tube jig like this is always a good choice. This is a Yum Houdini fry. That's an awesome little bait for around docks or really highly pressured areas. If it's the spring or you're out in a boat where you're not around other people and it's not highly pressured, that's where this bigger jig really shines. You know, and if you're just getting started at crappie fishing, of course you don't need a real elaborate setup. Just go get you a Zebco 33 combo. You can buy them anywhere. They're really inexpensive. Get some 6 to 8 pound test, grab a couple of different styles of little jigs in different colors, something in a dark, something in a light, some 16th, 8th ounce jig heads, or if you want to go the minnow route, then that's even simpler. Get you a package of hooks and a couple of split shot and minnow bucket and minnows, and you're ready to get started.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's show and maybe been inspired to do a little fishing yourself this year. For more information on the subject, we'd encourage you to visit our Outdoor Oklahoma YouTube channel, where you'll find lots more videos featuring professional anglers and some tips from our own biologist as well. For all of the Central Wildlife Department, I'm Todd Craighead. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you right here next time on Outdoor Oklahoma.